Hello and welcome, Stand Up World 62. I'm Mike Binder, and say hello to our producer, Patrick Arnold, in from detention, just fresh out of detention, in the Boston Penal Colony.
Man, you're keeping me down this week, Mike. That's okay.
No. You're up. You're doing well.
We're both up.
I'm doing good, buddy. How you doing?
I'm good. I missed you. Was worried about you.
Yeah. I don't know. I've been off. I've been out of it lately. I was in the hospital. Some of you know, some of you don't know, but I'm doing better. And you learn a lot when you go in the hospital. You learn that you don't mind being home that bad. As bad as much as you thought.
Right.
And it's just like, oh my God. But I had a horrible pain in my upper stomach, and we went to the emergency room, and they said all day, they waited, tested us all day, tested me all day, my wife and I was just so cranky, and they said it's either pancreas or the gallbladder or maybe the liver. And I was just praying it wasn't the pancreas, and I was so cranky, my wife was kind of praying that it was the pancreas, you know. And it was like, it just, right now, the emergency rooms they're like a third world country.
I heard. Yeah.
It was like being in a Star Wars bar, only an emergency room. There were people from different planets. Just, one guy, and I'm in the hallway, and what are you in for? I'm here for a shower. Okay, yeah, that's important.
Good thing he's in the emergency room. Yeah.
Yeah, and but it was very painful. But then got it done. And I'm back, and it's all good.
Yep.
It's all good.
Glad you're back and healthy now.
When I got out, this friend that I was talking to, as I was going in, he goes, "Yeah, you know what? I didn't want to tell you this, but they told me that the operation you're having is a huge percentage of men over 60 die during it."
That's something you would love to know, right?
I said, "I'm glad you didn't tell me that. I appreciate that."
That's what are friends for, if not that,
Yeah. But back, we have a great show. We got a couple really great shows lined up. The schedule is just chocked with some of the best.
Yep.
So, but today we have quite a character, Rich Vos, right? I think this guy's so funny. He's like a character out of an episode of the Jackie Gleason show. He's
So true. Yeah.
He's just so real. I love him. Let's just get going with him.
Let's do it.
Rich Vos. Rich Vos, how are you, buddy? Nice to see you.
Thank you for having me. I'm pretty good. I mean, I'm just a little aggravated. Don't have a 6-year-old daughter. I mean, the kid. Look, I'm in everything's fine. Everything's great. 20 minutes before we started doing this, I get a call, pick me up from school. No, come on, So I rushed to get her to her school, pick her up. And last night I said, quit stealing my clothes, my sweatshirts. She stole one of my favorite hoodies, and she comes downstairs. I go, quit stealing my clothing. Then I pick her up from school, and I see her in a brand new sweatshirt I bought, a polo. I've never even worn it. And she comes walking out wearing it. And, I mean, look, you're not supposed to hit a kid, especially
Who said that?
Huh?
Who said that?
She did, after I hit her. After I punched her. But you have kids?
Yeah,
My
I have two, but they're grown up. They're grown up, but I still hit them to this day.
Yeah, my older kids are 33 and 31.
Wow.
Grandkids. They're normal. They're good. A 16-year-old uh, is a nightmare. A nightmare. And we pull in the driveway. We pull in. I pick her up.
Wait, wait,
I
wait.
said,
I thought you said, did you say 6 or 16?
16.
I was wondering
16.
why a 6-year-old is wearing your hoodie.
Yeah.
Okay,
Uh,
16. That makes more sense.
and we pull in. I said, walk down and get the garbage can. She goes, I'm not walking all the way down. It's at the end of the driveway. I'm not going down. I just picked her up. I'm not going. And I can't, whatever. But things are good.
No, believe me, I know, I know. My kids are 30 and 29, so I don't have those issues anymore. But you
Yeah.
know, you know, I visit one of them in prison, and the other one's in Thailand selling her body. So I have different issues.
Well, I mean, listen, one's productive and one got caught trying to be productive. That can
That's right.
happen.
That's the way I look at it. I try to tell my wife, look on the bright side, okay? We're not paying rent for either of them.
Yeah. Yeah. That's not what I tell my wife. I tell my wife too much teeth. Anyhow, uh,
I
today
am.
is,
I
huh?
now wait a minute. So you have a 16-year-old, you have a 30-year-old, and a
33 and 31 from my first wife.
wow, wow.
And then
And are
Bonnie,
they boys or girls?
all girls.
You have
And
three girls?
yeah, three girls.
Wow.
And then my older daughters, I have one granddaughter, 2 years old, and then they both had grand two. They both had boys a week apart, so they're like 2 months old. My grandsons,
Wow, that's
and
great.
I'm old. It just look, when you're a
But you're
comic,
not that old. You're what are you? 63? 62?
higher. Uh, let's say I just got two Social Security checks finally this month.
Oh wow.
66 and a half.
Hey,
So,
now are any of your kids going
uh,
into the business?
what's that?
Are any of your kids going into the business with you guys?
No, no, thank God. My older daughters are doing great. I mean, they're, you know, big houses. One has a nice house and bought another house in Florida that she Airbnbs and B's, and the other one. I mean, they're. I have amazing kids. I'm lucky that and my ex-wife was a good mom, and I was, my daughters. When they were young, I guess they were like, I don't know, when I had tons of heat in this business, when I could have easily moved to California, like after Last Comic Standing. I was doing Last Comic Standing, tough crowd on Comedy Central, uh, the hottest radio show at the time. Now it wouldn't be, but so I easily could have moved to LA, and maybe who knows what would have happened. But I wasn't leaving my kids because I'd have rather, there's no way. I've seen comics throughout the business, just take off, do cruises. And I'm not taking their inventory or judging them. I just know I couldn't, be away from my kids.
But
Plus,
before we move on, let's get names. Let me just give me some names here. I'm going to write
of
them
who?
down. The
The
comics
comics.
that you've seen ruin their kids' lives.
There's a lot of them. But
Well, just give me
like,
some names.
uh,
Bobby Kelly. Did Bobby Kelly? Did he?
great kid,
No,
great
he's
dad.
got
He's a
good kids.
great
Yeah,
dad. I'm
he's a
talking
great
older.
dad.
Pryor, this guy Pryor.
Pryor. Yeah. Well, okay.
Yeah.
Don't give me
Uh,
dead people. I want to know someone in that. Someone alive that just was a shitty father that we can call up. No, I'm
oh,
kidding. I'm teasing.
I so like I come from my father passed away July 31st on my on one of my daughter's birthdays, and I'm
Wow.
like happy birthday, Grandpa's dead. But what a narcissist! He couldn't wait one day, so you know so I come from a broken home with a parent that was really not in my life. I mean, he was, every other week maybe, or you know what I mean. You know, so I just broke the chain of dysfunction with my kids. I said, for I'll do the complete and I sit down, I can sit with my kids and look through photo albums of pictures of them growing up and whatever. I'm not saying I'm not trying to pat myself on the back. I'm just doing what I was supposed to do in life that I felt to raise my kids with my ex-wife. So
Yeah. And
and
but I and none of them had any kind of inkling to go into the business.
no, no, not at all. I mean, when they were young and small, I would bring them on stage and do racist bits with them. But you can't do that anymore. You can't have them acting out like they're working in a Chinese restaurant or a 7-Eleven. I can't do that anymore with my other kid. She's too, I mean, back then it was killing. Uh, so no, they're in whatever. It's tough enough living with you know, my wife who's a comic. Well, my wife's a comic director, writer, everything, you know, and I don't want to turn anybody off or whatever, but to be a comic, you got to be crazy. To be a female comic, you got to be extremely fucking crazy. And I'm not saying female comics aren't funny, you know, comics are comic, but it's a different, they're out there on the road dealing with these psychopath club owners, managers, other comics. Could you imagine back in the day being a female comic and having to stay in a condo with some other fucking moke that's drinking and getting high all night or whatever? I
No, no.
no, So I mean, I hated doing it as a male comic.
But I will say, I think I don't even see female comics as female comics anymore. I think they're just comics, and they're a lot funnier. I was talking to Carmen Lynch about this. I feel like in New York, there's some killers, just killers, and there's a few in L.A. too that are. And when I was doing stand up the first time, there was like maybe four that were really funny. I'm serious.
Well, there was first of all, I don't see female comics even as human. We're different, but uh, there was four probably just working the clubs you worked. There was some. If you went on the road, I mean, I don't know where someone like Ellen DeGeneres started off back then, but she was hysterical. Wendy Liebman was one. Here's when I was coming up. I mean, new Wendy Liebman. I loved her. I loved Paula Poundstone. Watching Paula Poundstone or Carol Leifer. Uh,
Well,
there
those are
was
in the four. Those are the ones I'm talking about. I mean,
Margaret Smith
no,
was funny.
Sandra Bernhardt.
Yeah.
You know,
I saw Sandra Bernhardt. I think on Letterman on an interview once, and the interviewer, it was probably Letterman, said, "Do you work the club?" She goes, "I won't work for those, this whatever reason." And I'm going, I can't believe, the people that helped her. She says, "I won't work there." And then after years in the business, I go, I know what she means.
yeah.
you know, what I know what she means. There are great club owners out there, some of the best, and then there's some like one club owner. This is funny. Uh, this guy's trying to call me. Leave me alone. This one club owner, I call him, and we're in the car, Bonnie and I. said, and he said, "Well, you're not right for the room." I go, "There's no room I can't do. I've been doing this forever. I don't care if it's a kid's bar mitzvah or a knife fight with Hell's Angels. I'll figure out a way to do it. I know what I'm doing." So I'm talking to the guy, and then he goes, "Well, I have used magic acts before." And I go, you guys just fucking compare me to a magic act?" So anyhow, we hung up. Bonnie was furious. And like maybe a couple months later, I text him. I said, "Look, I want to work your club, but I don't like you. So the week I'm there, can you not come to the show?
Hmm.
And he wrote, I'm fine. And I go, well, I'll take that as a maybe. So, like, you know, I, this, this is my favorite club story of someone that won't use me. Uh, and I work all the time, don't get me wrong, but there's, you're
No,
not, So I was working a club, da da da. I'm going to tell this as quick as I can. It's fine. And then that weekend, or after a week, and she wasn't even there, said to my agent or manager, hey, he did a lot of crowd work. Well, one, it was Halloween weekend. Two, there was somebody in the audience in blackface. I beat him down to her. So anyhow, she stopped using me. No big deal. I moved on. A couple of years later, I'm working with this comic on the road. He was Midland, and he was an old guy, but he was a great writer. I don't remember his name. You would have known him because he was a writer, I think, for TV, and he's from Denver. Anyhow, he goes, yeah. I go, well, I used to work that club there. He goes, I do a podcast with her. I'll talk to her. Da, da, da. He's opening for me. Great writer. I think he passed away. I wish I knew his name. Anyhow, so I email this club owner. I go, uh, listen, can we move on? Let the past, let bygones, start from scratch, and move forward. I'm different now. You saw me years ago, and everybody grows. No response. So then I wrote to her. I go, by your lack of response, it looks like you want to move forward. Here's some of my available dates. No response again. Then I write to her. I go, hey, look, I'm not sure what date we're going to do, but can I bring my own middle act? I kept writing these emails without any responses.
Uh,
I don't care.
did you ever hear anything from her?
No, no.
That's
Dumb,
hysterical.
dumb club in Denver. He did crowd work. Oh, I'm sorry. There were, you know, listen, I love some of the clubs I worked. I just worked Boston. That club is great. And the owner came. That guy John came. And I'm hanging in
He's
the
a great
dressing
guy.
room. I'm talking to him like he's another comic. Like I now, we're laughing and you know whatever, and it was just a lot of fun. And uh, and then some clubs, look, all there's a lot of asshole comics too. That go into these places and they're drinking all night or they're trying to bang waitresses or do whatever. So it goes both ways. Uh, and
But then again, so does John Tobin.
yeah, well, that's I know.
You
That's
know
why
that, right?
I'm
Right.
not. I'm not playing golf with him. I hit my ball in the woods, and next thing you know, uh, uh,
John said you ripped, by the way, Rich. He said he loved. I mean, he loved watching your set. It was
well,
very funny.
thank you. Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
No,
It's
John
so
Tobin's one of the best. He's great. And look at there's Mark Ridley. You know Mark Ridley, right?
I'm not a fan. If you like him,
You
I don't know him. I worked there
oh
once.
oh really? I thought you played there. Yeah, no, that's like I'm from Detroit, so I don't.
Yeah.
But
Well,
for
I'm sure
me,
if you go ahead.
I I played all those clubs in the beginning of all the comedy clubs, and then I didn't play
Yeah.
them for 20 some years.
What
So
did you say?
what? What'd
What
you
did you
say?
say? What did you say to piss him off for 20 years?
I wrote them letters, and I kept just saying, "Okay, I know you're not responding, but I'll tell you who my middle act is."
Yeah. No, here's the thing. When I worked for that guy, look, years ago, I probably worked for him, what, 12, 13. Obviously, I could have been more aggressive. I could have done more crowd work in the situation I was in. I don't know. All I know is I got 7 albums, and they're not all crowd work. Believe me, there's some in probably every album a little, but you know. Uh, and I think when I was there, I did upset. I mean, let's say that weekend I did 1,000 people. I would imagine it was packed, and I think I upset one table of Middle Eastern people. And he said, "Hey, you know what? Listen, when you have 980 80 happy people and 20 unhappy, still gets you in the hall. You know what gets you in the Hall of Fame? 300 happy people out of 1,000 get you in the Hall of Fame. So, you know,
Right.
uh, but like I said, someone sees you 10, 12, 13 years ago, and after last comic, my money was it was stupid money too. You know, I mean now it's good money and certain deals. So people are going to go by their first impression, and some club owners might only see you for 20 minutes, and they can go, whatever.
Well, and I don't really know. Do you when you play these clubs, like are you going back to the same club over and over again, kind of building an audience? Is that the way it works now?
Well, yeah, some clubs I like. I'm in Arizona this weekend. I was there last year, but here's how stupid I am. I book Arizona and as many warm places in the winter as I can, so I can go play golf and work. So last year I booked Arizona. I didn't even bring my clubs. I didn't realize it was Super Bowl weekend, and they were having it in Arizona. It was the Waste Management Golf Tournament, which is one of the biggest tournaments.
Yeah.
Taylor Swift was in town. Kevin Hart was in town. Dave Matthews Band was in town. Bert Kreischer and me. So, uh, that last year was kind of it was almost a bust. I mean, there were people there, but I'm competing with everything, Super Bowl parties, waste management. So the clubs, yeah, you try to bring in uh, as many people and new clientele, and that's why also too you got to keep writing. I got to keep coming up with stuff. You know, I'm not a band. They don't want to. No one's yelling, do that baby bit or whatever. You know what I mean? So it does keep you on your toes, writing and relevant. I mean, I'm probably booked up, almost through the summer, and it's just doing South by Southwest Festival. Uh, Next month we're doing Netflix's A Joke Festival in LA.
Oh, that's
So
great. Where you playing there?
we're doing some club. We do a show, Bonnie and I, called "Would You Bang 'Em," and
Oh,
it's
you
I told you about it. Yeah, we're doing that one. I don't know the name of the venue. It's on Hollywood Boulevard, I
I think they
think.
just announced that today. I saw.
Yeah,
Is
Right?
it the
they announced
Bourbon
Yeah.
Room?
the what?
Is it the Bourbon Room?
Uh, I could tell you the name in one
Get it up.
second. Are you looking it up? Because that's
Yep.
what a producer does.
Yep.
Uh,
Yeah, really. Patrick, usually the producer of these shows does these things so a guy like Rich doesn't have to.
the
He can keep talking about hitting his kid.
Kookaburra Lounge. Is that how you say it?
Kookaburra, yeah.
Have you heard of it?
Yeah,
I
good.
heard it's really a cool venue.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, cool. That's cool. Uh, all right. Anyhow, so
And do you find do people kind of do get like you do your stuff from your podcast or do you have a radio show now or what do you have
wait, what
now?
was that? Do they come from the podcast?
Yeah,
Well,
yeah,
yeah. I mean, I'll plug every week I'm doing on the podcast. Some play like Boston. I got to do morning radio, which is almost a thing of the past on the road now. You
yeah,
know, unless I go into Sirius and do some shows there. You know, but morning radio, like there's places like DC, the sports junkies are morning, and they're great. You know, who I did in Boston, Toucher, whatever, great. And there's certain ones, Florida, Paul and Weiss. There's certain ones you'll do, but morning radio is obviously not like it used to be. And also, two clubs, listen, it's a whole new, you know, I'm not, I'm realistic. I'm not bitter in any way, but it's about your social media following. You know,
yeah,
it's. I hate my neck. I it's it's sad that funny takes second in some places to you know. And I was having a conversation, almost not like an argument, with this club owner online, and one one producer that both shows said, "I'm old school. I like funny," and the other one said, "Well, I have to fill seats." So the other one is like, "Well, whatever it takes." So I wrote to one, said, "I have to fill seats." I said to him, "If you went to a restaurant and ordered, say, pasta, and you got the biggest plate of pasta you ever had, but it was disgusting, and you hate it, would you go back there and get pasta again?" So there's a fine line between, uh, you know, YouTube or Instagram or whatever, against, you put up Dom Irera. There's nobody as funny as him almost on the planet, or or Doug Stanhope or Maria Bamford. So you could. These are just great comics to tell whatever. I can name a handful, and that's without even using my name. So there's a fine line on, and I get clubs have to keep their doors open, but they're really called comedy clubs.
Yeah. Do you go out with Bonnie? Do you and Bonnie go together?
No, not unless, well, because we're both headliners, so they're not going to be able to afford us. Uh, we'll do our show when you bang them at festivals. Uh, you know, we've done them all. Moon Tower, South by South, Montreal,
Right.
now Netflix. We've done some, but we used to once in a while do our podcast live. My Wife Hates Me podcast, and we
Yeah,
would bring on a comic as a marriage counselor. A celebrity comic
that's really funny.
to Sippy. And we've had great, we had Eddie Pepitone, we've had Bill Burr, Andy Kindler, Ron Bennington, or, we've had some really funny Bobby counselors. So uh, we haven't done that one live in a while, but we used to pack out places doing that. It's hard. Well, one, we can't do our other show on the road because we need like 8 other comics on it. We need comics and judges. So we could do it at festivals because there's
Right.
always the comics there. You know.
Right. Now I
So
want to talk to you about something else.
go ahead.
That's
I
your
didn't
roast.
do it.
Your
What's that?
roast. Your roast.
Oh yeah.
I spend more time talking about your roast, and that's the one thing. That's the reason. One of the I wanted to talk to you anyway because
Yeah.
I'm a fan, and I just something. But your roast to me is the best hour of fucking laughter on television right now. I tell people just watch that if you want to laugh your ass off. It's a classic hour. It's everything great about a roast, but it's produced in such an unproduced way, not glossy, and it's it's what I love about it is you're all such good friends, and you just all really, it's obvious that you all know each other so well and love each other, and you're all so mean to each other in that roast, and it's so it's the funniest. It's funnier than any of these slick packaged roasts I've ever
Oh.
seen. And it's like, I'll give you an example what I love about it. And I didn't even really know this guy, Jim Florentine. He
Oh, he
sits
killed it.
there and just takes shit for the entire thing. And he looks like he's just not funny, or he's just pouting, and he gets up and he just murders.
Yeah.
Murders. Every one of you guys murders. Everyone. And even Judy Gold, who didn't murdered not
Yeah.
murdering.
Yes. And people don't understand that she she was perfect at what was going on with her. Perfect.
Yes.
It was like,
Yes.
and when Bobby would stand up, it was kind of like, like that, like a Dom DeLuise almost, at a roast stand, like, and Florentine, uh, I mean, he slaughtered. And Bonnie was hosting throughout the night and was
She
just
was
so,
great. She was
it,
great.
you could never, well, yeah, we're all friends too,
Yeah, it's so obvious. It's so obvious.
and You,
Jim Florentine had one line. He had a
oh,
line,
I'll
Patrick.
tell you,
He
Bonnie
has he
came.
has this line. He goes, Bonnie came from Canada, and her dream came true. She got stupid rich, and 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 you could see almost everyone on there. Every one of these comics all went, "Fuck! Why didn't I think of that joke?
Yeah, I
That's such a
know.
great joke."
I know. And,
And
go ahead.
no, you go ahead.
When you're doing these roasts, like, I have stuff written, but then I always end up going off script. I do because I half the time can't read my own handwriting, or I can't see it. It's not typed big enough. Whatever. And I had a joke about Norton. I forgot. I think there was one or two about Colin, but you're trying to just keep it going. Some people will go up and just read their jokes one at a time, and some will just, like when we did the Patrice roast, Patrice would kind of read his jokes on some roasts. Some people can just, they almost memorize them. You know what I mean? They're going so quick on them. Uh, and there's so many that you don't even remember. Uh, but Florentine got up, and Colin had to follow him. I was sitting next to Colin, and Colin goes, and this is Colin Quinn. He's like, how am I going
Yeah,
to follow it? Colin goes, how am I going to follow this? And
it was
Colin's one of the best.
every joke he told was amazing.
Yeah, he killed. But everybody,
But Bobby Kelly was so good. He did this one
yeah,
thing. I forget what it was, but I just remember it. It just made me laugh so hard.
when Bonnie said to Bobby, uh, "You're up in two more if you want to start walking now." It
That was
was,
so funny.
and what she said to Norton to open a roast about his radio show, you know, uh, she said, "Your radio show's so bad. I'd rather listen to my daughter drowning." and,
Yeah,
and that's just start a roast.
yeah, that was great. But Norton had a good comeback to that. I forget what it was, but
Yeah,
I remember he came back with that. But my point is, it's just I tell people all the time, if you want to just laugh your ass off,
thank you.
it's so much fun. It's so much fun, and it's fun for me because I never really that's not the world I know, that New York comedy scene, but it's
Uh,
so great to see it, and it's such a great insight into it. It's really I love that roast.
and
And it's
people,
obviously done. It's already it's got so many views. I don't know what it's at now, but
it's at YouTube. It's free on YouTube. Voss roast. It's
yeah, yeah, it's on YouTube,
about
but
a, over.
it's got I'm over a million, right?
Yeah, Voss YouTube. During the pandemic, we said let's give it away for free. Give it back. It was already out for I think 2 years for like $5, and we said, come on, let's just
I
put it
got a
on.
good roast story. You want to hear it? I only did one roast my whole life. I
Yeah,
bombed so
I love
bad.
these.
I bombed so bad.
I'll tell you what after. Go ahead.
I hadn't been on stage as a comedian in 28 years, something like that. And they were doing a roast for the guy who booked the Comedy Store, this guy Adam, right? And he had just produced the Comedy Store doc with me, and I said, "Oh, I want to do that. I want to roast you." And I went up and I wrote some jokes, and I think they were good jokes. I really do, in hindsight. And I just couldn't buy a laugh, not one fucking laugh. And then I realized, as I'm telling it, it's a sparse audience in the main room, and I realized everybody in this audience are people that I didn't use in the documentary.
That's,
And I just realized that. I go, shit, these are all the people that are all pissed off that I didn't put them in the documentary after working on this thing for 2 years, because you just couldn't win. You couldn't put everybody in it.
that's how it was. Yeah.
And so, and Jeff Ross, who was in the documentary and who was a friend of mine, He goes, that was the worst bomb I've ever seen on a roast in my life. And he got and Spade, who was in the audience, who said, I'm not going up. I'm not going up. I bombed so bad. Spade goes, okay, I want to go up. Of course you want to go up now.
No,
But
I,
it was
that's not a good feeling. Like we were roasting. I got so many roasters. We were roasting Patrice. I mean, Patrice and Keith Robinson comes running in like he's going to ad lib a roast. With it was epic bomb. I think Esty was there from the Comedy Cellar, not even at her club, and I think walked up and took him off stage. I mean, he was bombing so bad. The scariest roast story. I was they were roast. I was on a roast roasting Trump. So it's when the Friars broke away from Comedy Central. Comedy Central went on their own, and the Friars were still doing their roasts. So this was at the Hilton in New York. There's probably 2,000 people in the audience, 1,500 to 2,000, and everybody or anybody that meant something in New York, from agents to club owners to celebrities. I mean, uh, Bonnie was there before I married her. Opie and Anthony, I got them, when they were really big on the radio, and just every agent club. So Regis Philbin was the host, goes up, and then this older comic goes up. I'm on the dais sitting next to Isaac Hayes. I'm having an anxiety attack, right? He's not going up, but the dais is full. So this old school comic, Stewie Stone, goes on. He kills like no one I've ever seen kill at a roast. Fuck you to Trump, fuck this, and you're a piece of. I mean, just slaughters. Now, my heart, I go, I have to get out of here, right? Susie Essman goes up after him, slaughters, kills. I mean, Susie Essman, and I'm sure Larry wrote some jokes for her, and she's just great at it. I mean, I'm going, how did she follow Stewie Stone? And she killed. I go, I have to, I have to get off this dais because I'm going to end my career. I'm going to embarrass myself, and I mean, I'm fucking. I smoked then, so it was. I remember walking backstage, having a cigarette, going on. Then a comic goes up and kind of has a tough time. Not the best. Great comic in his day, but had a tough. So I went up after him. Now, Regis Philbin was the host. It was maybe a month after Rodney died. And so I walk up, and my opening joke is big hand for Regis Philbin. Uh, Originally, he wasn't supposed to host. They asked Rodney if he wanted to host, and he said, I'd rather be dead. Right? It was a month after he died. Right? They're staring at me like, anyhow. So and then I said, then I just lost. I go, you know what? Fuck y'all. I'll
That's a funny
bring.
joke.
It
that
is.
is funny, though.
I go. Fuck y'all. I'll bring the other guy back, the one who had a tough time, right? And then I did my Trump. My Trump joke was written. Michael Cohen, his ex lawyer who wrote that book, quoted my joke with my name in it in his book. I said, uh, I go, the reason Trump puts his names on his buildings so the banks know which ones to take back. And that was 19 years ago. I said that.
Wow.
19 years ago, I said that about. So I pulled it off. Believe me, I pulled it off. Maybe on a 1 to 10 scale, I might have had a 7, but it was probably the scariest thing I've ever done in my. And I was on Def Jam. I was the first white comic to do Def Jam, and which was pretty fucking nerve wracking, you know.
Wow.
But
I didn't know they had white comics on Def Jam.
I was the first in 5 years. It ran for 5 years, and then they finally used it with me. So I go there, and Russell Simmons, who it was his show. They said he wants you to wear his clothing. So I got this Fat Farm hoodie on, and and I went to the 25th anniversary for Netflix, some Def Jam anniversary, and I look back at it, and it would be so different now because I did pander. I mean, I did grow up in a black neighborhood, and I did do a lot of black clubs, but I was more, like more street, than because of the audience, and there was more pandering. Not more there was some pandering, and that's where I was back then in comedy when I did Urban Rooms. It just clicked in. This is where I'm from, kind of, and you know. Uh, and it would be different. Obviously, you grow as a person and as a comic or whatever. And I look back when I see clips, and I go, "Ugh, turn it off. I can't look at myself, up there all like, just like I'm some fucking thug or something."
Yeah.
And it was a decent, but it nerve. It's funny. All the rewards in this business that you get, you're so nervous when you're getting ready to do them, whether it's a special, a TV show, a roast, and you're going, I worked my career for this, and now I'm a wreck getting ready to do this dumb thing. Until you walk out and get the first or second laugh. But up till then, you're like,
Hey, do
you
you
know,
think you're ever going to retire?
what? No, I got no, because what other business do I get to go, to Texas or Las Vegas, get paid and play golf on the best courses and meet these people? I was just in Vegas at Kimmel's room. I play with my friends out there. I'm going back to Brad's room at the MGM. You know, uh, and I I like creating. I like being on stage. I like coming when I come up with a new joke or a new bit. Although here's the thing: after 7 albums, I wanted, and I'm kind of like, I got to do something different. Do I have to tell more stories, talk more about addiction, do a one person show? What do I want to do? Because going up on stage and having a good set, it's not that hard because I have so many tricks and material and so many ways I can weave in. And although I did bomb 2 weeks ago, but it was impossible. But
It was in where?
I did some private show in New York at one of these clubs
Oh.
where you have to be a member to get in, and I'm on. There's these rich and these half-ass models, and they're eating as I'm up there, and I could hear the forks and knives on the plates, and it was just whatever, and it wasn't good. Uh, and it's just ugh. Uh, but when you're in a comedy club setting or whatever, usually there's not too much I'm not going to be able to handle. Like when Tobin watched me the other night, he goes, the only other person I've seen sit down for an hour is Don Gavin, and who was a killer comic in Boston. And I
Yeah, he
sat
was
my
blown
whole
away. He was blown away. Like, how hard you killed. I mean, and I've seen you at the stand a few times. You fucking level the place every time. It's so fun to watch.
thank you. Uh,
You sit down?
Sometimes, most of the time, I do because not at a theater. Like if I'm doing a theater, like we got the Patrice benefit coming up again. This is my 11th year hosting it, and it's an all-star cast, 2,000 people every year. You know, uh, in a theater, I'm not going to sit down. And when I'm hosting a show, if I'm hosting a big show, I'm not going to sit down. But if I'm headlining a show, if the room is the right, and at Laugh Boston, I really usually wouldn't have sat down because that show was sold out. There was almost 300 people, and you know, but when I sit down, uh, I can think more clear, and I can create more if I have to ad lib or come
Have
up
you
with.
always sat down, or is that something you just kind of worked
I've done it.
into?
I said this to Bonnie. We had an argument on 2 podcasts ago, I think, and I joke around. I go, besides Cosby, I was the first to sit down. She goes, "Are you out of your fucking mind?" I go, "No." Besides Cosby, I go, "All these other comics are copying me." She goes, "There's been stools on stage forever." I go, "Yeah, but it was." I go, "Yeah, but it was Cosby than me." And she goes, "Oh yeah." She goes, "I was the first to take the mic out of the stand." She goes, "Yeah, I was the first to do that." so, so
I
I've
love
been
how she busts your balls. She makes me laugh so hard when she does
she,
that.
so I've been sitting for years and years, because it's just you bring the people into you when you do that. It's like there's certain energetic comics that's great. That's their style, but I don't have that in me. When you first start, you don't know your voice, you don't know what you're doing. I remember when I first started, I saw Jerry Diner running all over the place. I go, oh, that's what I should do. So the next week I'm running all in, you know, like Robin Williams or something. I go, what the fuck? But I was, a year in, you don't know what you're doing half the time. You know, in the beginning, the first two times on stage, I had props. I saw Lenny Schultz. I go, oh, that's how you do comedy. And you know, I remember going to Catch a Rising Star and I saw Hiram Kessin. I go, he's the funniest man alive.
He
You know,
was a funny dude. He is a
he was,
funny. Yeah, I don't know if
he
he's
was
still
so
doing
funny.
it. He was
He was
so
like Dean
funny.
Martin. He was like Dean
Yeah.
Martin, doing that. And but I don't know. When I first started, I really I go. There was something that I have to do this. I remember booking a couple one nighters. I would book one nighters in my area. One, I would host them, so it would get me on stage. Two, other comics in my same position who were booking one nighters, we would trade. I would go to their club, they would do mine. I mean, I booked one night. I had Mulrooney headlining. He was a major John Mulrooney, killer, and he brought his own act to open. And this guy's going to me. I don't know if you know this, but I work Catch a Rising Star. Da, da, da. I go, well, you're getting $60 tonight, and it was Richard Jenny. He was opening for Mulrooney, right? And I had guys at these one night like Dennis Wolfberg, Joe Bolster. These were back then killer. Nancy Parker would kill on stage doing Betty Davis and Joan Crawford. Uh,
Yeah.
you know, and these were comics, from Long Island, Dave Hawthorne or Bob Woods. This is when I started. And I remember the first couple of years doing comedy, I was getting high and
Hey, did you know that guy from Long Island? He had that killer Tonight Show shot, the shoulder pads, and
oh, Bob Nelson.
Bob
Bob
Nelson.
Nelson.
Yeah.
I never worked with him. I worked with him once, years and years and years after that on a fundraiser, but I've never and I worked with a lot of different comics, for over the years from Long Island, New York, and not him, but he
He
killed on Carson, like
he
you know.
he killed. I did an HBO special with him
Oh, you
years
did?
ago. I'm trying to remember when it was. It was years ago, but he was so damn. He killed everywhere for a while, man. And then someone said he just got out of the business or something.
No, he's been sick, but on and off fighting, I think cancer, but he's still doing stand up. He's
Is
still
he?
doing. Yeah, he moved
Oh,
to not Louisiana, but somewhere weird, and with his, I guess, family and stuff. And he's religious. And who was really funny? I worked with many times back in the day. This guy David Say. Did you know David?
oh, yeah, sure. He was a pilot. He was
Yeah,
an airplane pilot. Yeah.
he did 14 Carsons. Like 14. He was
Yeah.
so good. Such a great writer. Such a nice guy. I loved working with him. Adrian, I remember one time when I first
What
started,
happened to him? What happened to David Say?
I think he ended up doing cruises, and he moved to Florida, and ended up doing cruises and just lived an easier life out there. You
He's a
know what I
good guy,
mean?
though. I knew him,
Yeah.
and I knew Jenny. Jenny was a good guy. Rich
God, was
Jenny.
he fun? He was so good.
He was so fun and so prolific.
He was. He's one of the best comics, easily in the history of comedy. You know,
Yes.
especially in the '80s. I remember getting ready to walk on stage when I first started, and Adrian Tolsch said, "They're going to hate you," and I just started laughing. I'm going, she was so much fun. There was so many fun times back then, and partying, and then I got sober. I went to rehab, and I remember in rehab they said you can't do comedy for a year because I worked the night I got out of rehab. I worked that night, and and I haven't picked up drug or alcohol. This month will be 38 years. Uh,
That's
you know,
crazy.
isn't it
That's
crazy?
great.
38 years.
Great. No, I have 39 years. I mean that's
Yeah.
that's great. And I'm lying just to have 1 year better than you. So
Yeah.
yeah, actually, but no, that's amazing. It's a fan. I think that's so great. But yeah, it's one of those things that just happens.
Yeah. I mean, listen, don't get me wrong. I'm fucked up. I'm empty. I mean, I'm sitting here with diamond rings and I buy shit on Amazon. I bought 2 weeks ago on Amazon hearing aids, and I didn't even need them. I just wanted to have them around the house, and they were a good deal. They were a good deal. Yeah, they were like $100. You never know when someone's going to come over and go, "Hey, you got any extra hearing aids?" Yeah, funny you should
You never
ask.
know. You
You
never
never
know.
know. Like when my knees were hurting, a little arthritis, and I bought a nice cane, but I don't need it because I got cortisone. You ever have cortisone? Like my
Cortisone,
back.
yeah, yeah, I have. I've had it. Yeah, several shots.
Yeah, I had it for my back and my knees, but my it's like a miracle. Like my
It
back,
is
I
a miracle.
and this is true. I went in there and they are like, every different step you go through. What's your name? Your birth date? No one's trying to be me. And then they're like, "Do you have a living will?" I go, "I'm getting fucking cortisone. Why? How many? How bad is my record here? I'm getting cortisone." But it did wonders on my back. So
Yep.
get back when you got back into comedy, like you're working around LA and stuff, and uh, like, do you are you writing for now? What's going on in your life? You're not falling back on what you used to do. You got to be coming up with, you know, are you coming up with
Oh,
new
you
like?
talking about material?
Yeah, yeah,
Material? Oh yeah,
yeah.
yeah. I didn't do one. I couldn't. You can't do anything from 28 years ago. Everything's brand new, and I write every day. I write much more than I ever did then, and I also spent all those years as a writer writing movies and television. So I just see the whole process different, and yes, and I don't. Yes, and I
Do
write a
you enjoy
lot.
it? Do you
I
enjoy
love
going up?
I love it.
And I think I saw an advertisement like you're on the road somewhere or you were doing something. I don't even know. I see so many advertisements online, but you do leave LA doing comedy
Yeah,
now.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And I've been gone. I went out and I opened for Friends as a middle act just to get my
Uh-huh.
feet dirty,
Yeah.
feet wet, dirty. And then I went out opened for a couple friends with some big shows, and
Uh-huh.
um and I'm I don't I'm not really. I played one of John's clubs,
Uh-huh.
a- and I really am going to more be putting my own shows together. Like I'm doing a show in Detroit with Howie Mandel and a couple
Oh, that's the
comedians.
one I saw. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm
Who
and
else is
I'm
on that?
Howie Mandel and John Stamos.
Yeah.
You know, and then I'm doing. I'll probably. I don't know. I don't know. That's probably what I'll do more of. More like little theaters and
Uh-huh.
put together. And that's what I used to do. At the end when I stopped doing stand up, I had done an HBO special and stuff like that, and I would go out and I would put two or three comedians together and do like a small, a 1,200 or 2,000 seat theater,
Wow.
and that I like that better, you know, and 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 I didn't. I had when I started, I was on a show called Make Me Laugh. I
Oh
think that was
God.
probably. Do you
With
remember that?
oh yeah, yeah.
With Bobby Van.
With what's that?
With Bobby Van.
Well, that's what
I mean,
the unknown comic was on. Make Me Laugh a
yes,
lot.
yes,
Well,
and
he was on the Dog
Shanling
Show,
and
too.
Shanling and Roger and
Yeah.
Roger and Saget and all these guys. And but I was on so many of them, and it was right when all the comedy clubs were starting. So I was 19, 18
Uh-huh.
years old. So I was
Wow.
headlining all these clubs all across the country, and I could draw because I was on 5 nights a week. Maybe 15 weeks, 20 weeks a year. And I would go into a town after I did that. And it was funny because you would talk about club owners. There'd be these club owners, and I just hang out with them all week, do coke with them, hang out with them. They go,
Yeah.
why are we paying you so much money? This ain't right. Come on. You're making more than any of it. You don't feel good about this.
Oh Jesus. Yeah.
Come on. And the other one go, hey, don't do this to him, Jimmy. Don't be a fucking asshole.
Yeah.
But but I was like the youngest guy in there. But then I just kind of stopped liking to play clubs. And I really, there's a few clubs that I kind of would like to get into. And if I really get back into going out there, but it's not really what I want to do. I really want
Well,
to put shows together.
it doesn't seem like you need to do this for money. You're doing it more out of creativity and passion, I would think. You know, uh,
Yeah.
which is great. Because you can pick and choose at that point in life. You don't. Like. There's sometimes I'll do a gig, and I don't. I mean, financially, I don't. But in my head, I go, oh well, this will pay for you know car insurance or health insurance, whatever. You know, which I don't really have to now. And Bonnie yells at me to pick and choose better. But I like to work. I like to be on stage too.
Yeah.
And I like doing comedy and coming up with a
Well,
new bit.
that's one thing that it's true because once I started back, I realized to be really good, you got to be on stage a lot
Yes.
and being out there. You know, Josh Wolf was telling me, saying, one of the things is he goes on the road all the time and it makes him great because he's out there all the time doing an hour a night,
Yeah.
all the time, and you can't get that good doing 15 minutes 3 nights a week in town, 4 nights a week in town, you
That's
know?
same within New York. I mean, if I'm if I'm home during the week, I try to stay home. I don't want to go into New York. On the weekend, if I'm not on the road, I'll do spots in New York. But 15 or 20-minute spots, 15-minute spots really aggravate me. I might throw a new bit in or two, but I just go, I'm not getting anything out of 15 minutes. It just,
Yeah.
and and I live an hour from New York. So uh, most of the times when I go to New York, it's just because I want to hang out with comics. Because
Now, can I ask you another question?
yeah,
You rent that Emmy by the podcast episode you visit, or is that something you can rent by the week? How do you get something like that?
wait, whoa, start again. The pot. What did you say about the
The
pot?
Emmy. Is it
Oh,
for each? You pay by the appearance?
listen. Uh, one, it's not mine. It's Bonnie's.
Oh,
First.
that's even worse.
Hold on. What's this? Oh,
It's
that's
it
my
it, it
backstage comedian of the year award. Uh,
Hell
get it?
yeah.
Emmy, Bonnie has an Emmy.
Yes, for
Yeah.
and she's listen. She's writing a movie now. She's as brilliant as anybody in this business you'll meet. And you're a writer director. she's, she produced our roast. The movie we made this movie, Women Aren't Funny, which is one of the best docs,
No, I know it. It was great. Yeah. No, I
and
know it. I know
thank
what
you.
she does. Yeah.
It's crazy, you know. I'm going to hold on to her, and see if this other stuff comes through.
Yeah.
See,
Rich, do you
I,
get up during the week at all,
what's
or
that?
do you just do you get up during the week at all, or do you just wait for weekends
What, in
headlining
New York?
or
In New,
wherever?
hey, look, tomorrow's Thursday. I got to get up super early and go to Arizona and work Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Come home. Uh, Very seldom. I took a spot Monday night in New York as a favor for a friend. It was horrific. Uh, if I'm going in to do a podcast, maybe which I barely go in if I can't. I don't want to drive in. I don't know. I'm just
Oh, it's a good place to be. You get to pick and
hey,
choose.
do you go play Detroit? Where do you play in Detroit?
uh, Chicago. No, I don't
Oh,
have
that's
anything.
yeah.
I haven't done anything in Detroit. Ever. The only place there is really Ridley's. I think. Do they still have their
No,
place? What do you call
no,
it?
no. John Tobin has a club
We
there.
just opened up one there.
Yeah, I know.
I'm
Yeah,
sure John will want to get you there.
yeah. We'll
You would
see.
kill there. You would kill there.
We'll see. I really liked him. I really loved hanging out with
He
him.
loved you. Yeah, I mean, he
It was
really
a
loved
lot.
you.
I mean your style and your kind of whole. You would kill in Detroit.
Thanks. Thanks. What the vibe? I
Yeah,
feel the
yeah.
vibe.
They wouldn't let you sit
Good
down.
comedy town. It's a
I'll
good
tell
comedy
you,
town.
I really so much wanted to see Detroit and Buffalo in the Super Bowl. More than any Super Bowl. If it wasn't Detroit Buffalo, either Detroit or Buffalo, at least one of those two teams.
Yeah, yeah.
Yep.
It would have been so much more fun to root. And
Did you
Detroit,
by any chance see that Barry the Barry uh San, what am I,
Barry Sanders,
the Barry Sanders it was it had a catchy title. I'm blanking on it on Amazon. Uh
was it a doc on him?
oh, it was great. It was brilliant. But I'm just had a great title.
I,
Uh
I
Look
watched
it
it.
up.
Yeah.
Well, it had a great title.
I'm
I don't
looking
know
it up.
why.
Uh,
I'm blanking on it. Just it's an age thing, but it
uh,
was so good. It was the
Bye
best
bye
thing.
Barry.
Bye bye Barry. That's what I was trying to remember.
oh,
It was
really?
it was so you would love it because it was so great about one of the best players ever on a team that just never took flight. So he never took flight.
Why? Well, Barry Sanders is one of the obviously best running backs, but he bailed. He stopped doing. He stopped playing way before. He
Oh,
could have kept going.
where do you
You
see it? Where do you see it? How he did it? It's
know,
amazing.
I
He just he faxed it in. He faxed it in.
I saw a pretty good doc last night on the making of We Are the World.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, really good. But this
You saw,
Bye Bye Barry is
I'm,
so good.
I'm going to
All
watch
right,
it.
listen, man. I really just wanted to talk to you and say hi. And I'm a fan of yours, and I do
Yeah,
think your roast is just a classic piece
thank
of
you.
comedy. And you also have a great. Just recently, that 30-minute thing you put out on the Gaslight Digital Network is really great.
Oh, thanks. Oh, we watched every episode of your docu series, and it was I love. Well, one, I love comedy. Two, I love
Yeah,
behind
me
the
too.
scenes in comedy. You
Yeah, me
know,
too.
I just love it. I've never met Leno. Is he's got to be the nicest guy in the world.
Yeah, he's a great guy. He's a great
Yeah,
guy. Yeah. When I was a kid, he was like my older brother in comedy. I hung
yeah,
out with him every single night. I went with him to all his first Tonight shows. I hung out with him during the day, everything. We were
really.
so
Yeah,
close for years. Yeah.
what a
He's a
great.
great guy.
Real quick. I was working on the road, and Jimmy Walker was hosting the show, and me and him ended up going to Walmart. He loves Walmart. He's a big Walmart guy. His stories, I mean, I can listen to those stories all night long. You know,
Yeah.
I sat down one night in Vegas with this old who passed, Sal Richards, and those stories from back then, from from the Catskills to the the Village comedy to the L.A. scene. You know, I could listen to that crap. I could listen to that
Me
stuff.
too. That's why I did this podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why I did the
Oh,
podcast. Tony V.
yeah. Great
I
comic
was
from
living in
Boston.
Boston with him and Patrick and um who else was there? Will was
It
there,
was
wasn't he?
Will, yeah, it was a couple
Will
local guys.
Noonan.
Andrew,
Will
yep, Andrew
Noonan.
Delville. We were just
And we
smoking
were just
cigars.
smoking cigars and telling and Tony was just telling stories, and I
Oh,
was thinking, man, there's nothing better than just fucking club stories and
yeah,
stories of
comic.
I love it. And Leno's the
Yeah.
best at it. Leno tells the funniest club stories, man.
It's if you think about it, he was a road comic that was killing around the country. I mean,
Yeah.
you could never. I used to come home from school in fourth grade. I'm 9 years old, and every day listen to the Von Meter album, The First Family, every day. And I realized later in life my family was going through a divorce, and me laughing was covering the pain. But
Yeah.
Von Meter, it was so funny. And then I'd grow up and I would watch it's Alan King and Steve Landisberg and Newhart. These were the funniest people to me alive back then.
The Von Meter story was an incredible story because Patrick, this guy had the biggest hit album. It was called The First Family, and it was all comedy. He did John F. Kennedy. And when Kennedy was murdered, they threw his career in the coffin with him.
Yeah,
He never had a career again after that. It was
he went
over. Nobody.
Wow.
from Park Avenue to Park Bench because nobody wanted to be reminded, you know.
Right.
And matter of fact, that night on stage, Lenny Bruce goes, "Well, there's Von Meter's career after
Yeah,
Kennedy got
that's
shot."
right.
You know,
Yeah.
he was the highest selling comic, album in history up to then, or at the time. It's sad.
When I was a kid, I grew up in Detroit, and I grew up down the street from a jazz club called Baker's Keyboard Lounge. And when I was about maybe 6, 7 years old, I was driving in the parking lot, learning to ride my bike, and the marquee said "Comic Lenny Bruce," and I kept saying to my dad, "What does that mean?" Comic Lenny Bruce. I remember, and I just that always stuck in my head. The guy said, "It's a guy. He's a comedian. He tells jokes." I said, "For a living? That's what he does. That's his job. He makes people laugh." And that always stuck in my head. I never got that
Great.
out of my head. Yeah.
That's great. Well, listen, thank you for having me. I know I brought nothing to the podcast, but still, we got to both kill an hour. So
Yeah,
it was
no, it's
really
great. It's great. And this way, now, if I could ever get your wife on, we can really find out the whole story about the Emmy and the backstage award and and
oh,
We got another one.
this
what
is
does that
for our
mean?
this is for our movie "Women Aren't Funny" from the Friar Comedy Film Festival uh, feature film. The "Women Aren't Funny" an award we won. And it's just
Great.
a couple of the awards. Uh, like
And your podcast, you do it once a week? What do you
yeah,
do? Regularly, or you've been
yeah,
doing it
once
for
a
a
week.
while, right?
Over 10 years. It's done. My wife hates me.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no, I love it. Great.
thank
Yeah,
you.
it's a good podcast.
Yeah, I mean, trying to just keep my dumb face out there.
Yep. It's
Whatever.
all good.
Take my wife.
It's
We're gonna
all
go out to
good.
dinner for Valentine's Day, and there you have it. I'm as funny as a cry for help today. Boy, do I!
Tell her I said hello, and tell her I'd love her to come on the podcast if she
She'll
ever
do
would.
it. She'll be much better than me.
Okay.
It's
You
my daughter.
sure?
Yeah.
That's
Oh, God. What are you kidding me? My mailman would have been funnier today. I bring nothing. Oh, look at
This was
fucking
great, Rich.
just sitting up here, fucking. Oh, what God, I hate myself. I'm just up here pontificating. Oh, and I did this roast or that. Who gives a shit?
Oh,
Anyhow,
I loved it.
yeah.
yeah,
Well,
it was
look,
all
who
good.
you,
It was
who you
good.
comparing
Hey,
me to?
Rich, we got the
What?
real side of you.
Oh, all right. Well,
And look at
thanks.
this way, if next Wednesday you kill yourself, you know how rare this is going to be?
It's
Can you
it was.
imagine if Jenny had done a podcast like this a week before?
Oh, it would
Just
have blown
saying,
up. Hey, listen,
would have blown
you
up.
you know, I'm telling you, I'm almost getting the numbers Cat Williams gets on his podcast.
Oh, man, you're great.
Well,
You're great.
thank you.
Let's do it again.
okay, that was great, huh?
Oh, that was awesome. He's one of the
Foss.
best.
He is the legend.
He is. He
He is
is.
the
Yeah.
legend. He's just so funny. And I want to get his wife on. I really do. Yeah, we got to get her on. All right. Well, hey, listen, if you're in LA, I'm starting up a week from Monday, the 11th, at the Hollywood Laugh Factory. Like Binder and Friends on Monday night. So come out and see us every Monday night. We're doing a show at the Hollywood Laugh Factory. We're gonna have some great acts and great friends, and it's gonna be a good night. Monday nights at the Laugh Factory. And that's it. I'm gonna rest up and get my energy going. And thank you so much for listening and watching, and more importantly, putting up with Patrick. That's where I really gotta tell you I'm grateful for you for.
That's what got you through the hospital, is knowing the fans are here in spite of me.
No, they're for it. Have a great week. Love you.